Hi and welcome to our presentation skills training program. Today we're going to focus on what to do with these hands, what to do with our feet, and how to stand in presentation. So, let's begin. First of all, what we're going to look at is our feet. What should we do with our feet? The best thing to do is to make sure our feet are shoulder width apart. And obviously if you've got very large shoulders, then your feet will be wider apart. But this helps us root, it helps us balance, and it makes sure that to our audience we look more professional. The next thing then is our body posture, and we're going to try and keep upright. If our head is down, then we may look and come across being a little bit timid, a little bit shy, perhaps less confident. So we want to lift our head up, face our audience, and where possible try and have a flat back, keep your body upright. One of the next questions we get is, what do we do with these hands? So the best thing to do at the beginning of the presentation, and I do stress that this is at the beginning of the presentation, is to put our hands into a position possibly crossed over like this, or if you prefer, like this. My preference is this way, and it's around about belt height. And I use this position to stand at the beginning of the presentation, but also I come back to it as well. So perhaps I may do a gesture, I may emphasise a point, but then eventually I come back to that neutral position. So, for the perfect presentation stance, we need to have our feet shoulder width apart. We need to have our body posture as straight as can be, so we lift our shoulders up and we look forward. And where possible, we try and have a flat back. And then the biggest question we have is, what do we do with these hands? And the thing to do with the hands is, we cross them over around about belt height. We can either interlock our hands like this, or we can interlock our hands like that. This is a perfect stance to begin with. So, now what we'd like to come on to look at is how not to do it, the things to avoid when delivering a presentation. And these are common mistakes that people fall into with their body language and the way that they stand. The first one, for gentlemen, is known as the footballer. Here, they protect their most important asset. And this can often lead to a head down position also, which gives the audience the impression that we're not confident. So try and avoid that for obvious reasons. The second trap that male presenters fall into is hands in pockets. Gentlemen, you really must trust me on this. When delivering a presentation in front of a large audience, now is not the time to jangle your pockets. So don't do it. The third thing to avoid is a kind of Prince Charles or a Sergeant Major approach, where the hands go behind the back. This can appear to be very domineering, and although in a small proportion is okay, but if we're really looking down at our audience, it can give the impression of superiority. So try and avoid that where possible. Point 4 of things to avoid is some kind of steepling of the fingers. So when we're trying to emphasise a point, because this can jump out at the audience, which may give the wrong impression. Linked into that is also a kind of hand rubbing. Often this is what we see salespeople do when they come to the end of their presentation. So, shall we talk about the figures then? We turn into a bit of a miser somehow, and that kind of body language can give off the wrong message to our audience members. Other things to avoid are objects. So it could be a pen. You may pick up a pen as part of your flip chart presentation, but then if we're not careful, we can end up clicking, playing, twiddling with the pen. And it's really quite distracting for the audience. So a general rule of thumb is, if you pick an item up, put it back down. Similar to holding a pen are the numerous devices that we get these days to move our slideshow on, and these come in the form of pointers, laser pointers, mice, you name it, it's a gadget to move our screens on. And often what this becomes is, again, another distracting object if somebody's playing around, fiddling with it. And another word of caution on laser pointers, please be careful out there, because if you're not careful you will turn into Luke Skywalker with your lightsaber. So avoid that where you possibly can. And again, the similar principle is, if you pick an item up to use it, then you must then put it back down once you're finished with it. So a variation on the hands in the pockets theme, again, please try and avoid this, is just one hand in the pocket. And whilst this may be okay once or twice in the presentation, if you continuously stand in a kind of little teapot position, it can really distract the audience. So come back to your presenter stance, which is feet shoulder width apart, hands belt height crossed over, and upright in your body position. So here we see a presenter who doesn't necessarily look very confident. The hands are low in what we call a fig leaf position. The head is down to the side and they certainly don't look very happy. So what we want to do again is get them to move into the presenter stance, which simply is putting themselves upright and then moving their hands slightly higher to a belt position.